The office was barely bigger than a closet, maybe 8 feet by 10. I sat in there with a rolling chair that squeaked when I leaned back, a desk that wobbled if I put too much weight on the left side, and 4 monitors stacked 2 by 2 on a metal frame that looked older than me. Behind me was the Rosemain reading room. I'd walked through it on my first night, and it was massive, all carved wood and painted ceilings and rows of long tables under those green-shaded lamps, probably beautiful during the day. At 2 in the morning, it was just dark and empty and kind of unsettling in that way big, quiet spaces always are. I didn't go in there anymore. Didn't need to. My job was to sit in this closet and watch the feeds. The monitors showed camera angles from different parts of the library, hallways, stairwells, a few reading areas. The bottom right screen cycled through the scanning stations, those self-checkout kiosks they had set up near the exits. Most of the feeds were static. Nothing moved. Just empty rooms with that faint green tint security cameras always have. I had a notebook next to the keyboard, black and white composition book, the kind with the marble pattern on the cover. That's where I logged anything unusual. Time, location, what I saw. Margaret wanted it handwritten. Said digital logs could get corrupted or accessed remotely. I didn't argue. She was the one who signed my timesheet. The job was digital intake monitoring. That's what the temp agency called it. Overnight shift, 4 nights a week, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., $22 an hour, which was better than the warehouse gig I'd had before this. I wrote down timestamps mostly. Noted when a camera flickered or when the motion sensors picked up something in the HVAC system. Wrote nothing. A lot. Margaret collected the notebook every morning when she came in to relieve me. She'd flip through it, nod once, and that was it. It was boring work. The kind of boring that gets into your bones after a few hours. But boring was fine. Boring paid rent. The email had come through on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd been out of work for 3 weeks, applying to everything I could find on the temp boards. Warehouse associate, night stock, data entry, whatever. I wasn't picky. The subject line said, "Immediate placement available. NYPL overnight security support." I opened it. No recruiter name at the top. No signature at the bottom. Just a couple of paragraphs saying they'd reviewed my profile, thought I'd be a good fit, and could I start that Thursday. It listed the pay, the hours, and an address on 5th Avenue. There was a phone number to confirm. I called, got a voicemail that just said, "Leave your name and availability." I left both. 2 hours later, I got a text with a start date, a contact name, Margaret Lucas, and instructions to enter through the staff entrance on 40th Street. That was it. I figured it was some kind of contract security thing. Libraries probably needed people to watch feeds overnight, make sure nobody broke in, that sort of thing. Made sense. I showed up Thursday at 10:45 p.m. The staff entrance was a plain metal door next to a loading dock. I knocked. A woman in a navy cardigan opened it and looked me over. "Tommy Mendez?" "Yeah, that's me." She nodded and stepped aside. "Margaret Lucas. Follow me." The hallways inside were narrow and fluorescent lit, nothing like the main library floors. We walked past storage rooms and offices with frosted glass doors. Margaret didn't say anything. She moved fast, and I had to keep pace. She stopped at the small office behind the reading room and unlocked it with a key from a ring on her belt. The monitors were already on, cycling through feeds. "This is your station," she said. "You'll stay here for the duration of your shift." I looked around. "Okay. 3 rules." She didn't wait for me to confirm I was listening. 1. Keep this door locked at all times. The bolt locks from the inside. Use it. I nodded. 2. Do not walk the stacks after hours. If you need to leave this room, use the staff corridors only. Do not enter the public floors. Got it. 3. No personal phone use past the turnstiles. If you need to make a call, go back to the staff entrance. weird. I must have looked confused because she kept talking. The policy exists for a reason. Follow it. Sure, I said. She handed me the composition notebook and showed me how to log the timestamps. Told me to write down anything that seemed out of place. Motion on a feed when there shouldn't be any. Doors opening, lights flickering, anything. What counts as out of place? I asked. You'll know, she said. That was the training. 20 minutes maybe. Then she told me her office was 2 floors down if I needed her, and she left. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. I locked the door. The first few nights were quiet. I logged timestamps, wrote no activity over and over. The cameras showed empty hallways, dark rooms, nothing moving. Around 3 a.m. I'd get tired and drink the coffee I brought in a dented thermos. By 6, the sky outside started to lighten and Margaret would knock, 2 taps, and I'd unlock the door and hand her the notebook. Any issues? She'd ask. No, I'd say. She'd nod and that was it. I thought the rules were overkill. Keep the door locked, sure, made sense for security. But not walking the stacks, not using my phone, it felt excessive, bureaucratic. The kind of thing someone put in a manual 30 years ago and nobody questioned. I didn't test it though. The job was easy and the pay was decent, and I didn't want to get fired for something stupid. By the 3rd week I had a rhythm. I'd get there at 10:45, unlock the office, settle in with my thermos and a sandwich I picked up from the deli on 39th. I'd watch the feeds, write in the notebook, check my watch every half hour. The time moved slow but steady. It felt solid, predictable. I liked that. Thursday of the 4th week started the same. I came in, locked the door, set up my coffee. The monitors cycled through the usual angles. Hallway 3, stairwell B, scanning station 2. Nothing moved, but something felt different. I couldn't pin it down at first. The feeds looked the same. The office was the same. Everything was where it should be. It was the quiet, I think. It pressed in harder than usual. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing. I could hear the hum of the monitors, the faint buzz of the fluorescent light in the hallway outside. Nothing else. I wrote the first timestamp, 11:15 p.m., no activity. The air felt heavier. I don't know how else to say it. It wasn't warm or cold, just still, dense. The kind of still that made me check the door twice to make sure it was locked. I leaned back in the chair. It squeaked. The sound was too loud. I watched the feeds. Nothing moved. I waited. Around 2:10 in the morning, one of the monitors blinked with a yellow flag in the corner. Scanning station 2. I leaned forward. The flag meant a jam or some kind of equipment alert. Usually it was paper stuck in a roller or someone forgot to close a lid. Nothing urgent. But I had to log it anyway. I clicked the feed to expand it across the top 2 monitors. The station came into clearer view. A long table with a flatbed scanner, a couple of archival boxes stacked to the side, and one box sitting open right in the center under the overhead light. The lid was off, resting at an angle against the table edge, like someone had been working and just stepped away for a second. That was the first thing that didn't fit. No staff was scheduled in that area tonight. Margaret told me the digitization team worked days only. The whole station should have been dark and locked down. I checked the timestamp. 2:09 a.m. Nobody had any reason to be there. The box sat there with the lid half off, and I could see white foam inserts inside, the kind they used for fragile materials. There was a label on the side of the box. I squinted at it, but the resolution wasn't great from this angle. I used the camera controls to zoom in. The image pixelated for a second, then sharpened. The label said, "Restricted, Avery," in red block letters. I didn't know what that meant. Restricted could be anything. Damaged materials, legal holds, stuff waiting for copyright clearance. The library had a whole system I didn't understand, and nobody explained it to me. But the lid being open bothered me. I zoomed in more, panning across the surface of the table. The scanner bed was closed, no documents on it. A pair of white cotton gloves sat next to the box, fingers crumpled in like someone had pulled them off in a hurry. Then I saw the handprint. It was on the foam insert inside the box, right on the edge, fingers spread wide. The surface caught the overhead light and looked shiny, wet. I stared at it for a long moment. The print was clear enough that I could see the lines of the palm, the distinct shape of 4 fingers and a thumb. It wasn't smudged. It was fresh. That part bugged me a little. If someone had been working there and left in a hurry, fine. People forgot things. But the wetness didn't make sense. The foam inserts were supposed to stay dry. That was the whole point. And the gloves were right there on the table. So whoever touched the foam had done it barehanded. I pulled back on the zoom and checked the wider angle again. The room was empty, no movement. The door to the hallway was closed. I picked up my pen and opened the notebook to a new line. 2:10 a.m., scanning station 2, equipment flag. Box open, no staff present, wet handprint visible on interior foam. I read it back. It sounded fine. Factual. I unlocked the desk drawer where Margaret kept the internal messaging tablet. It was an old iPad with a cracked screen protector, connected to the library's secure network. I wasn't supposed to use my phone for work communication, so this was the only way to reach her during shift. I opened the app and typed a message. Alert at scanning station 2. Box left open labeled restricted. Avery. Handprint on foam insert appears wet. No staff scheduled in area. Advising. I hit send and put the tablet back in the drawer. Usually Margaret took about 10 or 15 minutes to reply if she replied at all. Most of the time she just handled it herself and told me about it in the morning when she picked up the notebook. Standard security follow-up. I leaned back in the chair and it squeaked. I kept my eyes on the monitors, flipping through the adjacent camera angles. Hallway 4 outside the scanning room. Stairwell C at the end of the corridor. Nothing moved. The tablet buzzed. I blinked. That was fast. Maybe 2 minutes. I pulled the drawer open and checked the screen. One message from Margaret. Close the scan job. Mark it as operator error in the log. Do not mention the Avery box again. I read it twice. That wasn't how Margaret normally handled things. Operator error didn't make sense when there was no operator, and telling me not to mention something wasn't her style. She was strict about documentation. Everything went in the log. She told me that the first night. I stared at the message. The wording was blunt, almost too blunt. Do not mention the Avery box again. Not, I'll handle it. Not, security is on it. Just a shutdown. I looked back at the monitor. The box was still sitting there with the lid off and the wet handprint catching the light. I picked up my pen and hovered it over the notebook. Margaret told me to mark it as operator error. That meant I was supposed to cross out what I'd written and put something simpler, but that didn't match what I saw. I set the pen down. Something felt off about this. Not just the handprint or the open box, the response. Margaret had been consistent for 4 weeks. Professional, methodical. She didn't brush things off or tell me to ignore details. That was the whole job, noticing details. I closed the tablet and put it back in the drawer. Then I started checking the other feeds. If someone had been at scanning station 2, they had to have come from somewhere. The hallways, the stairwells, maybe the service elevator if they were staff. I cycled through the cameras one by one. Hallway 3, empty. Stairwell B, nothing. The main reading room, dark. Hallway 5, clear. I went back to hallway 4, the one directly outside the scanning room. Still empty. I switched to hallway 1. That was the corridor that led past the storage rooms and the offices on Margaret's floor. Also empty. Then I pulled up hallway 2. That was the hallway right outside my office. The camera was mounted at the far end, angled down the corridor toward my door. I could see the metal door frame, the frosted glass panel in the upper half, the pale green paint on the walls, and a shadow. I stopped. There was a shape pressed against the door, close, too close to the glass. It was person-shaped, shoulders, head, the suggestion of a torso. But the angle was wrong. The shadow was leaning in toward the lens, or toward the door, like someone had their face right up against the frosted glass trying to look through it. I couldn't see features, just the dark outline and the way it filled the frame. I didn't move. The shape wasn't moving either. It just stood there, pressed in. I checked the timestamp on the feed. Live. Current. Someone was outside my door right now. My chest tightened. I kept my hands on the desk and my eyes on the monitor. The shadow didn't shift, didn't step back. It stayed right there against the glass, like it was waiting for me to open the door. I looked at the bolt lock, still engaged. I'd checked it twice when I came in, and I hadn't touched it since. The shadow leaned closer. I stared at the shadow on the monitor and told myself it was probably a glitch. Something with the lens. A smudge on the camera housing catching the light weird. The hallway cameras were old. I'd seen artifacts before. Little blurs in the corner, pixels that stuck, except the motion alert kept pulsing. That little yellow triangle in the bottom right corner of the feed. Steady. One pulse every 2 seconds. I counted them. The alert only triggered when something moved in frame. That was the whole point. But the shadow wasn't moving. It just pressed there against my door. Same position, same angle, like someone leaning their face right up to the frosted glass trying to see through. I leaned closer to the screen. The shadow's edges stayed sharp. No blur, no distortion. Just a person-shaped dark patch that shouldn't be there because I'd checked the bolt twice, and Margaret told me no one walked the stacks after hours and staff corridors were supposed to be empty except for me. The alert pulsed again. I pulled back and rubbed my eyes. Maybe I was reading it wrong. Maybe the alert was old. Stuck. Sometimes the system lagged. I'd logged that before. Timestamps that came through 3 or 4 minutes late because the network hiccuped. But the timestamp in the corner of the feed said 2:13 a.m. Live. Current. The shadow leaned closer. I felt my jaw tighten. That part bugged me a little. Not a lot. Just enough that I wanted to reset the feed and make it go away. I reached for the mouse and right-clicked on the Hallway 2 panel. The context menu popped up. Reset feed was third from the top. I clicked it. The screen went black for 2 seconds. Then the feed reloaded. The shadow was still there, closer now. Definitely closer. The shoulders filled more of the frame. The head tilted slightly to the left, and the motion alert kept pulsing. Yellow triangle. Every 2 seconds. I sat back. My chair squeaked. Okay, fine. I'd message Margaret again. I unlocked the desk drawer and pulled out the tablet. The screen was still on from before. Her last message sat there in the thread. Close the scan job. Mark it as operator error in the log. Do not mention the Avery box again. I tapped the reply field and started typing. Then I stopped. I needed proof this time. She'd want to see it. I minimized the message app and opened the camera controls. Found the screenshot function. Tapped it. The shutter sound was too loud in the quiet. A fake click that made me wince. The image saved. I could see the thumbnail pop up in the corner. I tapped it to confirm. There it was. The shadow. The door. The motion alert triangle in the corner. Timestamp 2:14 a.m. I attached it to a new message and typed, Hallway 2 feed showing figure outside my door. Motion alert active but no visible movement. Attempted reset with no change, advising. I sent it. The tablet showed the little check mark. Delivered. I set the tablet on the desk and looked back at the monitors. The shadow hadn't moved, still pressed there, still leaning. The tablet buzzed. Fast. Maybe 10 seconds after I sent the message, I picked it up. Margaret's reply filled the screen. "You made it worse. Did you save that screenshot anywhere other than this message thread?" I read it twice. The wording felt off, not her usual clipped professional tone. This was something else, urgent, almost annoyed. I typed back, "Screenshot saved to device. Just the one." 3 dots appeared immediately. She was typing. Her response came through. "Delete it. Now. Check your workstation. If it's there, delete it from the folder. Do it quickly." I frowned. The screenshot was on the tablet, not the workstation. The tablet didn't sync automatically. I'd have to manually transfer files to the desktop if I wanted them there. But I unlocked the desktop anyway and opened the File Explorer, navigated to the screenshots folder. It was usually empty. I never took screenshots during my shift. The folder wasn't empty. One file. Thumbnail showing the hallway 2 feed. The shadow. The door. The alert. File name. Hallway 2021424 PNG. I didn't transfer it. I was sure I didn't transfer it. But there it was. My hands felt cold. I right-clicked the file and selected delete. The confirmation box popped up. I clicked yes. The file vanished. I exhaled and minimized the folder. Looked back at the tablet. Typed. Deleted from workstation. I hit send and watched the check mark appear. Then I opened the screenshots folder again just to confirm. The file was back. Same thumbnail, same file name. Except the timestamp was different now. Modified 2:15 a.m., 30 seconds ago. I didn't restore it. I was staring at the tablet when it reappeared. No one else was in the office. The door was locked, bolt engaged. I selected the file again. Right-clicked, delete. Confirmation? Yes, it vanished. I counted to 5, refreshed the folder. It came back. Modified 2:16 a.m. My throat felt tight. I picked up the tablet and typed, "File keeps reappearing. New timestamp each time. I'm not restoring it." Margaret's reply took longer this time, maybe 20 seconds. Long enough that I started wondering if she'd answer at all. Then, "Stop trying to delete it. Leave it alone. Do not look at the hallway 2 feet again tonight." I set the tablet down and looked at the monitors. The hallway 2 feed was still there. Top right corner. The shadow pressed against my door. Except now it was closer. Not closer in position. Closer in perspective. The camera angle hadn't changed. The hallway looked the same. But the shadow filled more of the frame. The edges pressed toward the lens. The head and shoulders took up almost half the screen now. I leaned forward. The motion alert was still pulsing. Yellow triangle. Every 2 seconds. The feed shifted. Not a glitch. Not a stutter. It shifted. The perspective tilted slightly. The angle leaned in. The shadow grew. The camera wasn't moving. The cameras were fixed mounts, bolted to the ceiling. They didn't tilt unless you used the controls. I wasn't using the controls. The feed leaned closer. The shadow expanded. The hallway walls slid toward the edges of the frame. Then the whole screen went white. Not black, white. Pure flat white. No static, no noise. Just a blank white rectangle where the hallway 2 feed used to be. I stared at it. My pulse felt loud in my ears. Then I heard the knock. Soft. Just one. Knuckles on wood, right behind me, on my office door. I didn't turn around. I kept my eyes on the monitors. The white rectangle stayed white. The other feeds kept cycling. Hallway 3. Stairwell B. Scanning station 2, still showing the open box. Another knock. Softer this time. Almost polite. I heard the deadbolt move. Not a rattle. Not someone trying to force it. Just a slow, smooth turn. Metal sliding against metal. the bolt retracting into the housing. I wasn't touching it. I was at the desk, hands flat on the surface, watching the monitors. The bolt kept turning. I stood up. The chair rolled back and hit the wall. I took 2 steps away from the door, pressed my back against the side wall where the monitors couldn't see me, where I could see the door, but the door couldn't see me back. The bolt stopped moving, halfway retracted, just sitting there in the mechanism. I stayed against the wall, didn't move. Margaret's rules played in my head. Keep the door locked at all times. Do not walk the stacks after hours. Stay in the office. That was the training. That was the job. So I stayed. The bolt didn't move again. No more knocks. Just silence and the monitor hum and my breathing. I counted to 60, then another 60. The bolt stayed halfway out. The door stayed closed. I moved back to the desk slowly, kept my eyes on the door, sat down without pulling the chair in. The hallway 2 feed was still white, pure blank white. The other feeds cycled normally. My hands were shaking a little, not a lot, just enough that I had to press them flat on the desk to steady them. I needed to file a report. That was protocol. Margaret said to document everything, anything out of place. This qualified. I opened the email client. New message. Recipient. Margaret Lucas. Her internal address auto-filled from the contact list. I typed the subject line, Incident Report, 2:16 a.m. Then I started the body, kept it clean, factual. Time-stamped observations with no speculation, 2:14 a.m. Hallway 2 feed showed unidentified figure outside office door. Motion alert active. Reset attempted with no effect, 2:15 a.m. Screenshot file appeared on workstation without manual transfer. File restored itself after deletion with new timestamp, 2:16 a.m. Hallway 2, feed perspective shifted closer to lens, then displayed solid white screen. Audible knock at office door. Deadbolt mechanism engaged partially without physical contact. Bolt retracted approximately halfway, then stopped. Door remained closed. No entry attempted. I read it twice. Added 1 more line. Remaining in office per training protocol. Awaiting instruction. I moved the cursor to send. The email client froze. Not crashed, just stopped. The cursor turned into the spinning wheel. I waited, counted to 10. The wheel kept spinning. I pressed Command Q to force quit. Nothing happened. Clicked the close button. Nothing. Then the whole window flashed and a delivery failure banner dropped down from the top of the screen. Red text. Message could not be delivered. Below that, the following recipient address was rejected by the server. Below that, Tommy Mendez NYPL internal.org. That was my address. I wasn't sending the email to myself, I was sending it to Margaret. Her address was in the recipient field. I could see it right there. Margaret, Lucas NEPL internal.org. But the error said the rejection came from my own address. Like I'd tried to email myself and the server bounced it back. I closed the error banner, checked the recipient field again. It still said margaret.lucas@NYPL internal.org. The delivery failure banner dropped down again. Same red text, same rejection. Same sender address, Tommy Mendez NYPL internal.org. I stared at it. The hallway 2 feed was still white. The bolt was still halfway out. And somewhere in the system, something was sending messages back to me from my own address telling me I couldn't send messages at all. The tablet buzzed again. I looked down. New message from Margaret Lucas. The timestamp said 2:17 a.m. Hey Tommy, I know this looks weird, but I need you to unlock the door real quick so I can explain what's going on. It's easier if I just come in. I read it twice. Margaret didn't write that way. She never called me Tommy. She used my last name or nothing at all. She didn't say real quick or what's going on or any of that. Her messages looked formal, clipped, typed with periods at the end of every sentence. This read loose and casual, almost friendly. Wrong rhythm, wrong word choice. I figured someone else sent it. Something else. The tablet stayed in my hand. I didn't reply. I watched the screen for another message, but nothing came through. Just that one sitting there with Margaret's name at the top and the blue bubble underneath that didn't match her voice at all. The deadbolt was still halfway retracted in the housing. The door stayed closed. I kept my hand steady and set the tablet back on the desk face up so I could see if another message appeared. My chest felt tight. Not panic exactly, just awareness that my options had narrowed down to almost nothing. Margaret's messages didn't help. The email system rejected my reports. The shadow pressed against my door, knocked, and started turning the lock from the outside. Whatever was happening, I wasn't getting support through internal channels. I picked up the desk phone. Black handset, coiled cord, heavy in my hand. It had a small LCD screen at the base showing the date and time. I'd never used it before. Margaret told me on the first night it was for emergencies only and connected to an outside line, not the internal system. I pressed 9, then 1, then 1 again. The line clicked twice. No ring. Just silence for about 3 seconds, then a woman's voice came through smooth and calm. 911. What's your emergency? The LCD screen lit up. Small green text displayed across the bottom. Marsh, H, dispatcher 44018. I stopped. My throat felt dry. I'm calling to report an incident at my workplace. Okay, she said. Her tone didn't shift at all. Still calm, still steady. Are you calling about the Avery intake? I didn't say that name. I hadn't given her my location, my name, or any detail about what was happening. I'd spoken one sentence, 10 words. I didn't mention that, I said. I know. She paused for half a second. But that's why you're calling, isn't it? The scanning station flagged, the box is open, and now you're experiencing secondary symptoms. Is that accurate? Secondary symptoms. She said it matter of fact, the way someone would confirm an address or a street name. No surprise in her voice. No question about what the symptoms were or why they'd be connected to a box in a scanning room 2 floors away. Who is this? I asked. My name is Hannah Marsh. I'm a dispatcher with the New York Police Department. I can send units to your location if you need immediate assistance. NYPD and FDNY are both available. I can have them downstairs in under 4 minutes. Downstairs. She stressed the word just slightly, enough that I caught it. Not there or to you or on site. Downstairs. She knew I was upstairs. She knew the building layout, or at least enough to place me above ground level in a structure with multiple floors. I hadn't told her where I was. I hadn't said the library, the address, the floor, or even that I was inside a building. I didn't give you my location, I said. You don't need to. Her voice stayed perfectly even. We have your position logged from the line you're calling on. Standard emergency protocol. Now, do you want me to dispatch units downstairs, or are you able to secure the door and remain in place until morning shift arrival? Morning shift arrival. Margaret's name for it. Not until your supervisor comes, or until someone relieves you. The exact phrasing Margaret used during training. My hand tightened on the handset. The coiled cord stretched across the desk. I could hear faint background noise on her end now that I was listening for it. Low voices, a radio dispatch squawk, the hum of office equipment. It sounded real, professional, normal. But she knew too much. I'm hanging up now, I said. Tommy, wait. I pressed the hook switch and set the handset back in the cradle. My name. She'd used my first name at the end. Same casual tone as the fake message from Margaret. I hadn't introduced myself. The caller ID on my end showed her name, but I'd never given her mine. I sat back in the chair. It squeaked. My hands were shaking again, just a little, so I pressed them flat on the desk and counted to 10. The lights flickered. Just once. The fluorescent buzz above me dipped. The room dimmed for half a second, then came back steady. The monitors stayed on. No power interruption, just the overhead light doing a quick brownout and recovering. I looked at the screens. Hallway 2 feet showed the corridor again. Normal angle, normal lighting, no white screen. The camera pointed down the length of the hall toward my door, and the view was clear. Empty floor, closed doors on both sides. My office door at the far end with the frosted glass panel reflecting the hallway light. No shadow, no figure pressed against the glass. The deadbolt was still halfway retracted when I glanced at the door, but the feed showed an empty hallway. I checked the other monitors. Hallway 3, clear. Stairwell B, nothing. Main reading room, dark and still. Scanning station 2. The feed was off. Black screen. No error message, no loading icon, just a dead monitor in the top right position where the scanning station had been cycling through all night. I moved the mouse and clicked on the black screen. Nothing happened. I right-clicked, selected Reconnect Feed from the menu, and the screen stayed black for 3 seconds. Then it turned on. Same view as before. Long table, flatbed scanner, archival boxes stacked to the side. The Avery box in the center under the overhead light, lid resting at an angle against the table edge. Foam insert visible inside with the wet handprint still there. Palm lines and fingers clear and distinct. But now the cotton gloves were gone. I leaned closer to the screen. The gloves had been sitting next to the box before, crumpled white cotton with the fingers collapsed inward. Now the table surface next to the box was empty. Just the scanner, the box, and the stacked archival materials in the background. The feed hadn't been on. I'd reconnected it manually. So either someone went into that room in the last 60 seconds and took the gloves, or the feed was showing me a recording. Or something else moved them. I zoomed in, using the camera controls. The box label still read, "Restricted, Avery," in red block letters. The foam insert still showed the handprint. Still wet looking. Still too clear. I panned right across the table surface. No gloves on the scanner bed. No gloves on the chair pushed under the table edge. No gloves anywhere in frame. The room was empty. Door closed. No movement. I pulled the zoom back out to the default view and watched for 30 seconds. Nothing changed. The box stayed open, the light stayed on, and the handprint stayed wet. The office felt quiet again. The oppressive silence from earlier in the shift had lifted just enough that I could hear my own breathing without it sounding too loud. The monitor hum blended into the background. The fluorescent light in the hallway outside my door buzzed faintly but steadily. For about 40 seconds, I almost believed it. Faulty sensors, software errors, a weird glitch in the camera system that caused the feeds to freeze, loop, or display cached images instead of live footage. Maybe the file restoring itself was some automatic backup protocol I didn't know about. Maybe the deadbolt mechanism was old and needed maintenance, and it slipped on its own when the building settled. Maybe the knocking was a pipe in the wall, or the ventilation system kicking on. I wanted it to be that. I wanted to write it all down in the notebook as equipment failure and hand it to Margaret in the morning so she could nod and say they'd get maintenance to check it out. But the 911 operator knew my name, and the Avery box was open again. I kept my eyes on the scanning station feed. The box sat there under the light, still and waiting. The handprint hadn't dried. The gloves were gone. And I had 4.5 hours left on my shift with the deadbolt stuck halfway open and no way to call for help that didn't already know I was here. I kept my eyes on the scanning station 2 feed. The box sat there under the overhead light, lid angled against the table edge, wet handprint still visible in the foam. The gloves were gone. Everything else looked the same. Then the paper moved. It slid out of the box. Not fell, slid. Smooth and deliberate, the way you'd pull a sheet from a stack if you were being careful not to disturb anything underneath. Except nobody was touching it. The edge appeared first, white and glossy, then more of it. The whole sheet sliding forward across the foam insert and onto the table surface. It stopped about 6 inches from the box, perfectly aligned with the table edge. I leaned closer to the monitor. The paper looked thick, photo paper probably, the kind you'd use for high-quality prints. I could see the light reflecting off the surface in a way regular printer paper wouldn't catch. The camera angle shifted. No warning, no motor hum or mechanical click. The perspective just tilted down and zoomed in, framing the paper dead center in the feed. The movement was smooth, too smooth. Security cameras don't pan that fluidly. They're fixed mounts with jerky digital zoom and clunky pivot motors that sound loud enough to hear through the feed audio. This was silent, and it moved the way a person would adjust their view if they wanted to show you something specific. The paper filled most of the screen now. I could make out the image printed on it. Dark hallway. Frosted glass panel on a door. A shadow pressed against it. Shoulders, head, torso suggestion. The motion alert triangle in the corner, pulsing yellow. My screenshot. The one I deleted. The one that kept coming back. Printed out. Full color. Glossy finish. The edges looked wet. Not damp. Wet. Like it just came out of the printer and the ink hadn't dried yet. I could see the light catching on the moisture, making the borders shine. I sat back in the chair. It squeaked. The facility treats images like doorways. That's what hit me first. Not a metaphor. Not some abstract security concept. Actual doorways. The screenshot didn't just save itself to the workstation. It transferred through the system, found a printer in the scanning station, and output itself as a physical object. Because that's how things move here. Through images, through feeds and cameras and captured frames. That's why Margaret said no personal phones past the turnstiles. Not because of policy. Not because they were worried about data leaks or people goofing off on Instagram during shifts. Because a phone is a camera. A camera is a connection. A connection is a door. And doors go both ways. I looked at the webcam on top of the center monitor. Small black circle, LED off, lens reflecting the overhead fluorescent light. I'd never thought about it before. Standard issue equipment. Every workstation had one for video calls or remote check-ins or whatever corporate reason they justified it with. I reached up and pressed my palm over it. Covered the lens completely. My hand looked huge on the monitor bezel. Fingers spread wide to make sure no gaps showed. The scanning station 2 feed didn't change. The paper stayed centered in frame, edges still wet, image still visible. I grabbed the edge of the monitor and found the power button on the bottom right corner. Held it down. The screen went black. I did the same with the other 3 monitors. Top left, top right, bottom right. All black. The office got darker with only the desk lamp and the glow from the hallway fluorescent seeping under the door. The scanner feed was still running. I could hear it. Faint electronic hum from the monitor speakers, the almost silent background noise of an active camera connection. The screens were off, but the system was still receiving. I dropped to my knees and reached behind the desk where the cables ran down to the floor. Found the network cable. Thick blue Ethernet cord plugged into the back of the tower. Pulled it out. The plastic clip released with a snap and the cable came free in my hand. That should have killed it. No network. No feed. The cameras run on the internal library network, not local to the workstation. Disconnect the cable and you disconnect from the server. I waited, counted to 10, pressed the power button on the center monitor. It lit up. 2 seconds of black, then the desktop loaded. The 4-panel camera grid appeared automatically, same layout as before. Scanning station 2 feed active. Top left position. The paper centered in frame, glossy surface reflecting light, edges wet. The network cable hung loose in my hand. I looked at the back of the tower. Empty port, no connection. The feed was running anyway. I set the cable on the desk. My hands were shaking again. Not much, just enough that I had to press them flat on the surface to make it stop. The system wasn't routing through my workstation anymore. It was just showing me what it wanted me to see. Direct line. No network required. On the monitor, the paper started to curl. Just the edges at first. Slow warping, the way photo paper does when it's still wet and the moisture isn't evenly distributed. The corners lifted maybe a quarter inch off the table, bending upward. Then something pushed up from underneath. Dark shape. Couldn't make out details yet, just the suggestion of mass. It bulged against the paper from below, pressing upward with slow, deliberate pressure. The paper curled more, lifting in the center now, the printed screenshot buckling as the shape rose. The camera zoomed in, tight focus on the paper's texture. Glossy surface catching light, ink still wet, fibers visible at the torn edge. I could see the individual pixels of the printed image, the half-tone dots that made up the shadow in the hallway and the door. Then the feed cut, black screen for half a second. When it came back, it showed hallway 2. The figure stood directly outside my door. I stopped breathing. Navy cardigan, neat cut, no wrinkles, shoulders squared. The figure stood close to the frosted glass panel, not pressed against it this time, but upright, facing the camera. I couldn't see the face clearly. Wrong angle, bad lighting, shadow from the overhead fluorescent falling across the upper half. But I could see the cardigan, same one Margaret wore, same shade of dark blue, same button placement, same fitted cut around the waist. The figure's right hand held something up, small rectangular object, white plastic border, clip at the top, ID badge. The camera angle shifted again. Smooth tilt down, digital zoom engaging without sound, focusing on the badge. The image sharpened. Photo showed Margaret Lucas. Same sharp dark eyes, same controlled expression, same neat shoulder-length black hair. Her name printed below in block letters. Lucas, Margaret. The badge number sat at the bottom. 8 digits. 7411206 My employee number. I knew it by memory. Had to enter it every time I logged into the workstation, every time I swiped into the staff entrance, every time I signed the notebook. 7411206 Margaret's real badge number was different. I'd seen it during training. Something starting with 32, way lower in the sequence because she'd worked here for years. This badge had her photo, her name, my number. The figure lowered the badge. The hand moved slowly, deliberately, clipping it to the cardigan's front pocket. Then the figure's other hand rose into frame and knocked twice on my door. I heard it. 2 soft knocks, knuckles on wood, same sound as before. The deadbolt was still halfway retracted, door still closed. The figure stood outside in the hallway, wearing Margaret's cardigan, holding my badge number, waiting. I stayed at my desk, hands flat on the surface, eyes on the monitor. The figure didn't move. The figure outside my door tapped the badge against the frosted glass. Once, twice, 3 times. A steady rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. I could hear it through the door and see it on the monitor at the same time, the hand lifting and lowering, the badge hitting the glass panel with a soft, hollow sound. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. That broke Margaret's rule. No personal devices past the turnstiles. But Margaret wasn't answering messages, and the deadbolt was halfway open, and something was wearing her cardigan outside my door. I needed proof. Something I could show someone who wasn't part of this building, this system, whatever this was. I unlocked my phone and opened the camera app. The screen went bright, showing the viewfinder, and I angled it toward the monitors to capture the hallway 2 feed. But when I looked at my phone screen, I didn't see the monitor anymore. I saw myself. My own face filled the phone's viewfinder from an angle I wasn't holding it at. The perspective was wrong. It showed me from above and slightly to the left, like the camera was mounted on the ceiling looking down. My face looked tired and pale under fluorescent light, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. I was staring at my phone in the image, which meant the image was live, which meant I was looking at myself looking at myself. The library cameras were in my phone. I turned the phone away from the monitors, pointing it at the floor, but the viewfinder still showed my face from that same overhead angle. The image didn't follow the phone's movement. It stayed locked on me. Then I saw the second face. It hovered just behind my right shoulder in the frame. Pale, flat, pressed close to my neck like someone leaning in to whisper. No features I could make out clearly, just the shape of a face. Skin that looked damp and colorless, and the suggestion of eyes that might have been open or might have been empty sockets. I jerked the phone away and almost dropped it. The viewfinder image tilted as the perspective shifted, tracking me, and the pale face stayed near my shoulder in the frame. It didn't move when I moved. It hovered there, watching with me, watching me watch myself. My phone screen went black, not dimmed, not asleep, just dead. The battery had been at 62% when I unlocked it. I heard the deadbolt click. The sound was sharp and final, metal sliding home. The bolt finished retracting all the way into the housing, and the lock mechanism settled with a soft clunk. The door was unlocked. I stood up fast, grabbed the rolling chair and dragged it to the door. I jammed the backrest up under the handle and kicked the base to wedge it tight. The chair wasn't heavy. It wouldn't hold long if something pushed. But it was something. I pulled the black desk phone toward me and dialed the number Margaret had given me during training. Not 911, not the front desk. Her direct security line. 4 digits. Extension 3217. It rang once. Lucas. Her voice. Clipped, formal. No wasted breath. I said, "It's Tommy Mendez. I need verification," she said. Training phrase. I blinked. My mind went blank for half a second, then I remembered. First night. She'd made me repeat it twice. Eyes on station, station on record. She exhaled. Confirmed. What did you create? What? Images, photographs, screenshots, recordings? What did you create tonight, Mendez? I looked at the composition notebook on the desk, then at the tablet, then at my dead phone still in my hand. A screenshot. On the tablet. You told me to delete it, but it kept coming back, and I just tried to use my phone to... Your phone! Her voice went tight. You brought your personal phone into the office. It was in my pocket. I didn't use it until just now. I needed proof. I needed... How many images? 1. Just the screenshot. But it printed itself at the scanning station, and then my phone showed. Did you look at what your phone showed you? I didn't answer. Mendez, did you look at it? Yes. She was quiet for 3 seconds. The Avery collection is containment paperwork, incident documentation from 1974 through 2003. We scan it, log it, and keep it indexed. It can't leave the building. Do you understand? No. The job is bait, she said. You sit in a room with cameras and screens and logs and you watch. That's the whole job. You're a witness, a set of eyes, but you're also a doorway. If you create an image of something that shouldn't exist, and you look at it, you acknowledge it, you make it real, and once it's real, it can cross. My hand was shaking. The phone rattled against my ear. Cross into what? Into you, into your life. It can't cross unless you let it in, unless you make a record of it and treat that record as proof. Her voice softened slightly, though it stayed controlled. That's why you don't take photos. That's why you don't carry devices. That's why the job is temp contract and short-term rotation. We don't let anyone stay long enough to want proof. I looked at the door. The chair was still wedged under the handle. I couldn't see the hallway through the frosted glass. What do I do? Stop looking, stop trying to document it, open the door fully and step into the hallway. No tablet, no phone, no screens. There's something outside. I know. It's wearing your cardigan. It's wearing what it needs to wear to get you to open the door. It's already in the system. You gave it a shape when you took that screenshot. You gave it permission when you looked at your phone. She paused. It's not going to leave until you stop feeding it. I stared at the chair jammed under the handle. You want me to open the door? I want you to walk out. Eyes down. Don't look at it. Don't acknowledge it. Just walk to the stairwell and exit the building. I'll file the incident. Your shift is over. It's 2:20. Your shift is over, Mendez. I put the phone down, didn't hang up, just set it on the desk with the receiver still off the hook. I could hear Margaret's voice, tinny and distant, saying my name once before I stepped away. I walked to the door, pulled the chair back and set it aside. The deadbolt was fully retracted. The handle turned smoothly when I gripped it. I opened the door. The hallway was empty. I kept my eyes down, focused on the carpet, and stepped over the threshold. Cold air hit me immediately. It pressed against my face and neck like I'd walked into a freezer. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed louder than they should have. I didn't look up. I kept my eyes on the floor. There was a damp outline stained into the carpet about 2 feet from the door, roughly person-shaped. Shoulders, torso, legs. The stain was darker at the edges, like something wet had pressed itself flat and left a print. I stepped around it and walked toward the stairwell. Behind me, I heard a sound, soft, rhythmic, pages turning, inside the walls, dozens of them, flipping in sequence, the papery whisper echoing through the plaster and drywall like the building was reading itself. I reached the stairwell door, shoved it open, and took the stairs 2 at a time. The exit near 40th Street was propped open with a rubber wedge. I pushed through and stepped onto the sidewalk. The air outside was cold and clean and normal. I sucked in a breath and looked around. Bryant Park was across the street, empty, dark. The library's main entrance was to my left, stone steps leading up to the locked bronze doors. I saw the NYPD car parked at the curb about 30 feet away. Empty. Lights flashing. Red and blue, but the rhythm was wrong. Too slow. The lights pulsed every 3 seconds instead of every half second. The car was running. I could see exhaust drifting from the tailpipe. No officer, no radio chatter, just the lights flashing out of sync. I turned right and walked fast toward 6th Avenue. I didn't run until I hit the corner. Then I ran. Veselka was 6 blocks away on 2nd Avenue, 24-hour diner. Bright lights, people, noise. I needed all of that. I needed to be somewhere that wasn't empty. I got there in 8 minutes, shoved through the door, and slid into a booth near the back. A server came by and I ordered coffee. My hands were still shaking. I pulled out my phone. It turned on. Full battery, 62% like before. I opened the Photos app. There were 3 new pictures I didn't take. The first showed my office from the doorway. The desk, the monitors, the chair. The composition notebook open on the desk with my handwriting visible. The second showed the hallway outside my office, the damp outline on the carpet, shadows at the edges of the frame. The third showed me sitting in this booth. Right now. Taken from across the diner at an angle that showed my face, my coffee cup, the window behind me reflecting the streetlights outside. I selected all 3 and deleted them. I watched the trash folder for 10 seconds, then opened it. The photos were back, timestamps updated, 2:29 a.m., 30 seconds ago. I deleted them again, emptied the trash, restarted the phone. When it powered back on, the photos were in my camera roll, not the trash, the roll, like I'd just taken them. I stood up, dropped a 10 on the table, and walked out. There was a trash can on the corner. I threw the phone in, heard it hit the bottom, and kept walking. I walked home, 14 blocks. I kept my eyes on the pavement, didn't look at car windows, didn't look at storefronts, didn't look at any surface that could reflect or record or show me anything I didn't want to see. I made it to my apartment at 3:15 a.m., locked the door, checked the locks twice, sat on the couch in the dark. I survived the night. But by the time morning came, light creeping gray through the blinds, I knew the truth Margaret had been trying to tell me. Any proof I kept would feed what followed me out.